The modern brain isn't weak. It is a precision instrument, being blunted by 1,000 digital cuts. You are not lazy. You are suffering from a total neural hijack. It is overwhelmed, drowning in a sea of synthetic signals before you have even had a chance to breathe the morning air. Your cognitive bandwidth is being auctioned off to the highest bidder while you sleep. Not by hard labor, not by true survival. Those are noble pursuits. This is a silent erosion of your focus, a dopamine feedback loop that rewards your stagnation, but by noise, pure, unadulterated sensory noise. Even here, on the commute across the harbor bridge, the silence has been colonized. Notifications before sunrise, endless scrolls while you wait for your flat white. You are terrified of your own silence, so you bury your potential under a program of distraction. Most people don't even realize the hijacking is happening. It is a collective trance, a synchronized descent into the digital abyss right here in a Melbourne laneway. They wake up already depleted, foggy, restless. Even that morning flat white can no longer cut through the neural sludge of 1,000 bypass boundaries. It is as if their cognitive sovereignty has been outsourced. Their attention no longer belongs to them. It has been auctioned off to the highest bidder while they sit on a park bench. And after a while, the silence of the Australian bush or even a quiet room starts to feel deeply uncomfortable. You have developed an allergy to your own consciousness. This is the fear of stillness, a strange, quiet tragedy where we have traded our presence for a program of endless, hollow noise. We have conditioned our neural pathways to recoil from the void. Boredom is no longer a catalyst for growth. It is a perceived existential threat we neutralize with a reflexive swipe. We abort the birth of every original insight. Before a single spark can crystallize into a coherent thought, we drown it in a flood of curated low-resolution stimulation. This is the systematic dismantling of your cognitive sovereignty. Your mind does not break. It simply loses its edge through a slow, digital lobotomy of the soul. Observe the 7:45 surge through Southern Cross. It is a quiet tragedy. A mass of individuals physically present, yet mentally colonized by the invisible labor of the algorithm. Look at their eyes, the vacant stare of the digital ghost. They are scrolling without seeing, breathing without being. The pilot has been replaced by a feedback loop. You feel it late at night, under the sterile glow of a desk lamp in a quiet Sydney suburb, while the rest of the world sleeps. Trying to anchor your focus for just 5 minutes feels more draining than manual labor on a sweltering Queensland worksite. Do not mistake this for a character flaw. This isn't laziness. It is a systemic breach of your cognitive sovereignty. Do not mistake overload for a lack of willpower. It happens because your neural architecture has been hijacked. Your attention hasn't drifted, it has been violently fragmented by a deliberate dopamine loop. And the truly frightening part? You've been conditioned to believe this baseline of chronic exhaustion is the natural state of a modern Australian. It is a digital lobotomy by another name. You need to realize your neural pathways aren't static. They are being colonized by the very algorithms you scroll through. Neuroplasticity is a ruthless architect. It doesn't care if it is building a cathedral of focus or a landfill of digital debris. It is a binary state of existence, total cognitive chaos or absolute discipline. There is no middle ground when your attention is the highest, valued commodity on the global market. That is the uncomfortable truth, mate. Your mind is always in training. Whether you are waiting for a flat white or commuting on a Sydney train, you are either sharpening your blade or letting it rust. Even when you think you are resting, slumped on the couch after a day of hard labor, your brain is still absorbing the entropy. Passive consumption is just another form of cognitive decay. And strangely enough, the most effective cognitive exercises to rebuild your focus look almost childish at first. We are talking about stripping back the noise to reclaim your mental sovereignty. The first protocol in our neuro-recalibration is deceptive in its mechanical simplicity. A 5x5 matrix, numbers 1 to 25, laid out like a puzzle without a picture. To the unconditioned mind, this is mere child's play, a harmless mental exercise to pass the time while you're waiting for a flat white in Surrey Hills. It looks benign, almost trivial. But wait, within 10 seconds, the neural friction begins. Your saccadic eye movements become erratic. Your attention starts to fracture, jumping like a faulty signal on a rainy Sydney commute. The grid isn't moving, but your internal landscape is. You are witnessing dopaminergic urgency, the frantic, conditioned itch to finish, to scroll, to jump to the next hit of completion. Stop, breathe. You finally realize the cold, hard truth. The struggle isn't with the numbers. You are struggling with the ghost of your own shattered cognitive sovereignty. Look at the screen. While you wait for that flat white, your mind is already elsewhere, fractured. This isn't just a grid. This is the Schill table, a surgical diagnostic for your cognitive fragmentation. The premise is basic labor. Find the numbers in sequence. But realize this speed is a dopaminergic trap. The urgency to finish is exactly what's eroding your deeper neurostability. Notice the mental itch when you miss a digit? That's cognitive drift. It's the same restless twitch you feel on a Sydney train when you haven't checked your phone for 2 stops. Your saccadic movements are screaming for a distraction. Stop chasing. Start scanning. As we initiate neuro-recalibration, you'll feel the tension leave your neck. You are literally rewiring the pathways to favor sustained attention over cheap digital hits. Commit to 5 quiet minutes. We aren't trying to manufacture a genius. We are simply reclaiming the lost art of presence. In a world that's drowning, this is how you learn to breathe underwater again. The second protocol is a forced sensory recalibration. It feels alien, almost like a weakness exposed. You are intentionally stripping back the primary feed. You are going dark. Try it. Scribe your signature. Trace a perfect geometry. Type a message to a mate without a single glance. This is an exercise in proprioceptive focus, forcing the brain to map space without visual crutches. Instantly, you are hit with a visceral clumsiness, a heavy cognitive friction. That frustration is the sound of neural pathways that have gone silent from sheer underutilization. This is the byproduct of an Australian life engineered for zero resistance. Tap and go at the Coles checkout. Lane assist on the M1. Autocomplete finishing your sentences before you have even formed the thought. We have outsourced our spatial mapping to GPS and our cognitive recall to a cloud. When you eradicate effort, you effectively lobotomize your own executive function. You are not being helped. You are being replaced. By stripping away the visual input, you trigger a proprioceptive recalibration. No shortcuts. Your prefrontal cortex begins to reclaim the territory lost to digital passivity. You aren't just drawing. You are reauthoring your neural architecture. Look at this. A Sydney apartment bathed in morning light, minus the hum of the television or the blue light glare. This isn't boredom. It is the return of deep focus. This is where your cognitive reserves begin to replenish after years of overstimulation. Now, we introduce intentional friction, the non-dominant hand. It feels clumsy, doesn't it? That awkwardness is actually the sound of a dormant motor cortex being forced to labor for the first time in a decade. Brushing your teeth or unlocking the front door becomes a battle. But realize this. If you cannot master a 3-second physical inconvenience, how can you expect to master your own destiny? Resistance is the only antidote to synaptic decay. The modern machine is designed to eradicate resistance. Infinite scrolls. One-click gratification. It is a seductive program designed to keep you soft. While you drown in ease, your potential is being quietly suffocated by a lifestyle that demands nothing of you. You've traded your mental grit for the instant gratification of a swipe. Your neural circuitry has fallen into a state of synaptic lethargy. Anything requiring actual cognitive labor now feels like a monumental burden. The moment you struggle to turn that key with your left hand, you're inducing neuroplastic friction. That raw, clunky sensation isn't failure. It's the awakening of dormant consciousness. Witness the literal re-architecting of your psyche. This is dendritic expansion, the brave act of forging fresh synapses rather than rotting in the comfort of automatic, low-resolution patterns. Realize this. Discipline isn't a whip or a self-inflicted wound. It is a sovereign recalibration of your internal operating system. It is not about aggression. It is about alignment. It's the stubborn, calculated refusal to let your mind become a passive passenger. It is the reclaim of your cognitive sovereignty. Refuse to be passive. This final protocol unmasks the neuroarchitectural rot. Observe the word on your screen. Red. But the pigment? It is a piercing electric blue. This is not a game. It is a diagnostic of your cognitive sovereignty. Your circuitry screams red, but your retina registers blue. In that microsecond, the cognitive gears grind against the rust of modern passivity. You hesitate. You realize the immense labor required to simply see what is actually there. The lizard brain fired before you even drew breath. That hesitation? That is the friction of neuroplasticity in action. That tiny delay is the only space where your true self, the architect, actually exists. This is the Stroop effect. It is a mirror reflecting how automated your consciousness has become. Underneath the psychology, it is a battle for the cockpit of your mind. Are you the pilot or just the cargo? Can you pause long enough to override the algorithmic impulse? Can you exert prefrontal governance while the amygdala demands the speed of a dopamine hit? Reclaim your focus. Stop the drowning. That cognitive override? That is your neural sovereignty returning. It is the silent labor of closing the feed while waiting for a flat white in Surrey Hills. This skill matters far beyond psychological tests. It is the architecture of your resilience when the dopamine crash hits and the loneliness starts to color your thoughts. Real discipline is rarely a loud Sydney New Year's Eve display. It is invisible. It is the friction you feel when you refuse to automate your life. It is the small, repeated choice to stay present while the rest of the world drifts through a digital haze on their morning commute. Understand this. Your neuroplasticity does not crave a high-octane seminar. It demands the consistent application of controlled discomfort. This is the quiet discipline, the deliberate act of reclaiming your executive function from algorithms designed to realize your distractions before you do. In an environment engineered to fragment your soul, sustained attention is your only form of survival. By embracing the friction of the Stroop effect in daily life, your mind becomes sharp again. You stop being a victim of impulse and start becoming a master of intent. So tonight, when the phantom vibration rings in your pocket, do not reach for the distraction. Sit in the silence for 5 minutes. Face the friction. Begin the work of rebuilding the empire of your mind. Reclaim your focus.